Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director, David Riggleman. Coming up on this show, it's a pesky insect creating health hazards for local residents. We're talking about mosquitoes again. Leaders in the City of Las Vegas are mobilizing to address this growing concern. Joining us with more on this and a whole lot more is our Ward 6 City Councilwoman, Nancy Brune. Councilwoman, welcome back to the program. Great to see you here.
Good to see you, David.
Of course, you represent Ward 6, but you also represent the Southern Nevada Health District, or the city on the Health District Board. We're going to talk more about that.
Yes.
But for those of you out there not exactly sure where Ward 6 is located, we're going to show them on the map. It's the top of the valley, the north part of the valley, northwest part of the valley. Appropriately enough, Councilwoman, where the 6 is, that's your ward. If you live in that area, everyone, or work in that area, of course, you're in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas. And if you're a resident out there, you're represented on the city council by Councilwoman Nancy Brune. And Councilwoman, as I mentioned, you serve the residents of Ward 6, but she's also on the board of the Southern Nevada Health District, as I mentioned. So joining Councilwoman Brune and me as a special guest, he's the Senior Environmental Health Specialist with the Southern Nevada Health District. We welcome Vivek Raman to the show. Vivek, it's great to have you here. Councilwoman, you and I have been in Las Vegas a long time, and mosquitoes, not that big of an issue, but all of a sudden last summer, a huge issue here. So glad to have Vivek on the show. He is an expert, everyone, on what's known as vector control, dealing with these types of spreads of insects. So we're fortunate to have him
All
on the
things
show.
mosquitoes.
All
and I will say, I learned actually that he's also a resident of Ward 6. So
There
I feel
you go.
Like Ward 6, among the many amazing things about living out there, is we have our own resident mosquito expert.
We're going to keep it in the family. That's right. It's like, well, Vivek, what changed? Like I say, we've lived in Las Vegas many years, and we've had mosquito issues here and then, mostly maybe pools that had left kind of just have stagnant water in them, that kind of thing. But last summer, it seemed to be such a widespread problem across the valley that we never experienced ever in my years here. What happened?
Right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And this is very timely considering the intense rain we just had a few days ago. You know, I've been with this program since 2004, really when we started doing mosquito disease surveillance with the advent of West Nile. And you're right, over the decades, I've really seen a lot of change in terms of not only just the valley, what the problems are that create mosquito issues, but then also people's perceptions of mosquito issues. And absolutely, in the last few years, we have had a lot more involvement and engagement from the public regarding mosquito problems that they're experiencing.
And it's interesting, they actually tend to call the city council offices first to complain, and we refer them to our office. So you're right, like, it is very much kind of a local issue that folks really do get concerned with.
For sure. You know, and ultimately, so the health district, our program is a surveillance program. So what we do, we have 6 staff that look after the entire valley, all the way from Mesquite down to Laughlin. And so what we want to know is what type of mosquitoes are there, how many are we finding, what's the disease status. So we go through these traps, thousands of them every year. And in fact, last year, tested almost 60,000 mosquitoes looking for diseases like West Nile virus. And so while the mosquito numbers themselves haven't really changed all that much over the years of doing surveillance, what we have seen change is the type of mosquito. And so the type of mosquito we're seeing now is called Aedes aegypti. And this came into the valley first in 2017. And this mosquito is different than the typical types of mosquitoes that we find in that it loves to feed on people. Whereas typically mosquitoes are dusk and dawn biters, and they're most active in bird populations, so they feed on birds. Aedes aegypti love to live in people's yards. They like the small containers that are plentiful. These containers don't need a lot of water, so they're difficult to find. So it really requires people to go out into their yards, especially after a rain, and look at, okay, where am I possibly breeding mosquitoes?
And Vivek, you mentioned that they can thrive in just tiny amounts of water too, unlike other mosquitoes.
Like an overturned bottle cap.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this mosquito has lived with people for so long and has really adapted to our environment that we've created for them. And so if you think about it, there's millions of these little containers all over the valley. Last year, we saw the remnants of Hurricane Hillary come through and really a lot of water over a prolonged period of time, filling all these little containers. And so that's why last September, we had over 400 complaints of mosquito activity, which is an anomaly.
Off the chart.
Oh, yeah, way off the charts.
And Vivek, I think people were talking about too how this particular mosquito seemed to go for the lower extremities, so you didn't even hear it or sense that it was around, but the next day you'd just have welts all over your legs. It's like, and where did that happen? I never saw a single one.
Yeah, they're relentless. I mean, truly they are, because one female mosquito can bite you multiple times. You know, and because they're biting you in areas that aren't by your ears or your eyes, so you can't notice them, they can, you know, get their blood meals and then fly off. And then 10 minutes later, you're noticing that you have, you know, maybe some welts even, because people are having some bad reactions to this mosquito bite.
Now, Vivek, one thing you did say is that there is one good thing about Aedes aegypti, and it doesn't carry West Nile typically, right?
Right. So, you know, mosquitoes are the most deadly animal on the planet through the diseases that they transmit.
Talk about that just a little bit, because just their ability to spread things so far and wide.
Exactly. And so when you think about mosquito disease, malaria is a big one. That's an Anopheles that spreads that. You have West Nile, which is a Culex mosquito, which is the type we typically find here. Aedes aegypti, it can spread dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika virus was a big deal back in 2016. We saw it spread rapidly around the globe. So while Aedes does not typically transmit West Nile, it is a real problem when it comes to some more exotic arboviruses like dengue fever, because Brazil right now is having a real problem. Over 1 million cases already reported in 2024.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So the concern is that, you know, while we do have West Nile circulating, and it continues, we find it every year, the potential for disease transmission with Aedes aegypti is if we have a foreign traveler come into Las Vegas, and we have 42 million people that come in. So it may be likely that you have travel-associated cases coming in. Or likewise, we go travel elsewhere, Caribbean, Brazil, you know, where Egyptian dengue fever may be, and come back into our community with it. Then an Aedes aegypti that's not infected may bite that returning traveler, get the infection, and
now
then
off
pass
we
it on.
go. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, you know, that's the interesting with mosquitoes, is that you have to understand what kind of mosquito are you dealing with, where does it like to breed, what are its biting habits, and what type of disease can it transmit.
Vivek, let me ask you this. Based on the amount of rain that we've already had this year, how wet it's been, what's your prediction for what we're facing through the spring and into the summer?
Right. Well, I can tell you, we're already seeing an increased number of complaints. Already in April, we had 35 complaints-ish. And while on its standing alone doesn't sound like a lot of complaints, when you look at April of last year, it was 2 complaints.
Wow.
In April the year before, 1 complaint.
Wow.
So the reality is that people are noticing the mosquitoes earlier in the year, whereas typically we would need some time for mosquito season to ramp up. You know, we would start trapping in April just to get a sense of what kind of mosquitoes and where, but already neighborhoods are complaining about these Aedes aegypti.
Can you share a little bit about what residents can do? I mean, I guess, you know, in the very sort of immediate, will the mosquito spray help or prevent them from biting you? Are they so persistent and brave that they'll bite through any sort of, you know, off repellent that you put on your skin to protect?
So first and foremost is personal responsibility of looking for breeding sources. You know, making sure those are empty and, you know, removed from the yard.
How soon do you have to do that? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question, Councilwoman. I was going to ask the same thing.
5 minutes after? How much time do you have before, I guess, a mom mosquito lays the eggs and then the babies start flying away?
Right, so typically 7 days, you know, so for
A
example.
little bit of time.
You have a little bit of time, David.
Yeah, so we had that rain Thursday, Friday. You know, I would say by now, go out and take a look.
Check it out, check it out.
So really that's where it starts. But then also preventing mosquitoes from coming into your house, making sure that doors and windows are screened. Because these mosquitoes, when they come in, you know, they'll harass you when you're sleeping, just like any mosquito for that matter. But these ones are very persistent. And then when it comes to pest control, it's very difficult because when mosquitoes are flying around actively, they're difficult to find and they're difficult to control. So really, that's why we always talk about larval control.
Mm-hmm. Vivek, let me ask you this: do the bug lights that you see, the different kind of Zevo and the different lights, do those help keeping the control in the house if some of the mosquitoes should get in when the door or window is opened?
So, Dave, I don't have any experience with that, but what I can tell you is outside, a lot of time, the tools that are used are carbon dioxide, traps that emit pheromones, perhaps. Those are traps that can be very useful to trying to prevent a problem from coming into your house. When it gets into your home, that's a little bit of a different situation because it's a smaller environment. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're not using any kind of pesticide that can affect your children or yourself. A lot of times we see people over-apply pesticides if they want to do it themselves, which can become a problem in its own right.
Yeah, it's worse than the mosquito potentially if you're not careful. Exactly right.
If there was an outbreak, what sorts of interventions or things is the health district or our local jurisdictions thinking about to fumigate or to avoid an outbreak of the spread of Aedes aegypti?
Mm-hmm. Right. The health district is not an abatement district. So in California, Texas, Florida, you have these well-established abatement districts that look after doing mosquito control. Mm-hmm. Our focus is really surveillance. So what we do when we find problematic areas is we work with our counterparts, whether it be code enforcement, parks and recreation, streets and sanitation. So really the first thing we do is get our counterparts on board to look for where problems may be, educate the public. That's why this is so important. There are tools that can be used that have been used to mitigate mosquito problems when Zika virus was an issue in Miami-Dade, also dengue in Texas. And so the best approach really is a wide area larvicide spray, just in looking at literature and the way it's been used around the world. Because there are so many little containers,
you can't find them all, that's
exactly.
the thing. Yeah, yeah.
So the approach is that you use a larvicide, a larval powder that goes into the air and that settles. And this is a bacteria that's actually non-toxic to people.
But it'll kill the larva then.
Exactly. It settles into those little containers. And even when the eggs are dry, as you'd mentioned, if the larval powder falls in there, the next time it rains or you get water in that container, the eggs become rehydrated. Well, so does that larval powder. And then when those eggs and the larvae are now feeding on the water column, the larvae ingest that powder. So that's a strategy.
Yeah.
Vivek, you had some incredible statistics that you brought with you today that I want to share with the viewers here. The spread of this, in 2017, there were 6 zip codes that had a mosquito issue. In last year, it was 43 zip codes in the area. It jumped to that, 6 to 43. Right. Wow. So clearly the problem
in our neighborhood,
it spread everywhere. And you had 13,000 cases reported last year, something to that effect?
Well, so the 13,000 refers to the amount of mosquitoes that we caught.
That you caught, I see.
Right.
Okay.
But that's the point, is that initially when we first found the mosquito, it was very isolated and it was just a few hundred mosquitoes. And over the course of doing our surveillance, we've seen this mosquito spread. The first 5 years, it was very, again, isolated, just a few hundred mosquitoes we were finding. And then in 2022, we saw a jump from 6 zip codes to 12 zip codes. And instead of just a few hundred, you maybe caught 1,000 or 2,000 mosquitoes. So still not a lot when you think about the grand scheme of how many mosquitoes we're trapping. But then in 2023 is really when we saw it go from the 12 zip codes to the 43 zip codes. And instead of just 1,000 or 2,000 mosquitoes, we caught almost 13,000.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And again, just a product of all the rain that we had last year, I'm assuming. So
yeah, and people's habits. I mean, because it needs both of that.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't have the containers to breed in, then you wouldn't have the extent of the problem.
Right.
If we saw standing water, what would you or a resident in Ward 6 saw standing water, what would you recommend? Because it sounds like you work with code enforcement, which the city has a code enforcement department, as does the county. So would you recommend that a resident call the Southern Nevada Health District, or should they call my office and then we'll refer it to you and then you'll bring in code enforcement? Or how would you recommend that residents can get involved and share the information if they see a problematic area?
For sure. Councilwoman Brune, I would say all of the above, because the reality is that we are services for the people. And it's very important sometimes that while the health district may get a lot of complaints, if the elected officials of those areas, whether it's City of Las Vegas or Henderson or North Las Vegas, if they don't know that residents are having a problem, they can't help to develop sustainable solutions. So yeah, we work very well with code enforcement. If there's a stagnant swimming pool, by all means, call our office. Our website, in fact, has information on who to call depending on what jurisdiction you are, and then let them know. If it's a park, for example, you see broken irrigation, contact your Parks and Rec for that area. And if it's a detention basin that's filled with water, then that's a public works issue. So it really depends on, we all have a part of this puzzle, because it's such a involved subject matter, that you need everybody doing their part.
Vivek, I want to ask you this. Wherever the standing water is, how far do the mosquitoes travel from that standing water? Is it a long distance, short distance, all the above?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I love that question, David. And the reality is it depends on the mosquito. So for example, a type that can grow into a green swimming pool can actually fly quite a way, half a mile. And if you had a good wind, maybe even a mile. So, I always call those stagnant swimming pool,
that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But the Aedes aegypti don't fly very far at all. And so they like to stay kind of in the neighborhood where they were born and raised.
Stay in your backyard.
Exactly. And
They were there last summer, and I'm worried about this summer. So,
especially those eggs that have laid dormant, with the rains that have come through in the spring.
Exactly. Well, Vivek, we're running low on time. Anything else you want to? This has been a fascinating discussion. Councilwoman, I'm so glad we had him on the program.
Yes.
It's like you mentioned, very, very timely discussion.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add is some words of wisdom for us as we face the mosquitoes again this season?
Yeah, I would anticipate it's going to be a busy season. We have 6 field staff that set traps. We try to get to every complaint, but when you have 400 that come in and it's all across the valley.
You had 700 complaints last year.
Annual, exactly.
With 6 people following.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So,
So I would say please be patient. Also, if some zip codes are fairly saturated with complaints, we know that they're there.
Right.
It's a matter then of just passing on the prevention message, and not that we can get to every single complaint to set a trap, because we know these mosquitoes are here. And also speak with your elected official. And we should have this conversation as a community in its totality, because while Ward 6 residents may do all they can, if there's a adjacent community that's not part of that doesn't know the message, then it's only going to keep spreading, because mosquitoes don't know boundaries.
yeah.
Vivek, I did have one last question. So when does mosquito season typically end? Because I'm already looking forward to that.
That's my favorite season. All the mosquitoes are dead.
I bet it's yours too.
So our surveillance program is April through October, really, and that's because that's when you have temperatures starting to increase, you have daylight that's a little bit longer. So that's the surveillance season through October.
And the Aedes aegypti, are they all day long, or just in the mornings and evenings? When do they like to bite us?
Bite your ankles.
Yeah, they are an all-day, primarily daytime biter.
Okay.
One of the saving graces, if you look at 120 degrees, the saving grace is that mosquitoes don't fly. They're really not very active. So spring and fall is really when you expect to see a lot of aegypti action.
Okay, all right. So the hotter the better, then to dry up those little puddles of water too.
They evaporate.
So, exactly.
One interesting fact which Vivek shared in our board meeting is they did some genetic research, and so this mosquito, Aedes aegypti, came originally from Garden Grove, California, and made its way to Nevada.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Vivek, it's like the Africanized bees. They traveled all the way from South America all the way here. It's just amazing how insects can move across large areas like that.
Oh yeah. In fact, one thing we're looking at now to see, because of the initial population we know came from California, but now we have such a spread of distribution. So we're actually working with our UNLV counterparts where they're actually doing some more testing to see, maybe we have Garden Grove up here and, Phoenix down there and Sacramento over here. And so that's the interesting thing is really the dynamic of how that happened in our valley so fast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like humans and mosquitoes all want to be in Las Vegas.
I know,
right?
it's like everybody does. And, 42 million tourists and how many millions of mosquitoes? I don't know. Don't even want to know the answer to that one, Vivek. But Vivek Raman, thank you so much. Just a great discussion. Glad you're on the job at the Health District here for us in light of what's going on. Best of luck to you and to your team. And good luck here. I think you're going to be busy this summer. It's job security for everyone there and your team. So thank you again. And
thank you.
Looking forward maybe having back in the fall with
let us know
how we're
it
doing.
goes.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like a good plan. So anyway, Councilwoman, real quickly, we need to take a short break, but still to come, we have some great events that are coming up in Ward 6 that we want to tell you about right after this.
I know, 2 seconds. Hang on, just stand still. Stand still. One second. Boys, hang on, boys!
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
Welcome back, everyone. We were talking with Councilwoman Nancy Brune from Ward 6. And Councilwoman, that was a fascinating discussion we had with Vivek. Mosquitoes in Las Vegas, it's like things, you never know what's coming next. After all the years I've been here, we were saying it's never been much of an issue, but all of a sudden things really change. So,
well, I think for me, the takeaway from his message is that we can all do our part, right? So I know I have tons of flower pots and little containers in the backyard. So just being really mindful about cleaning them up or cleaning them out. So.
And didn't realize with that particular type of mosquito that they don't need much water at all. So any standing water is an issue. So that's the takeaway for me as well. And I'm so glad that you serve on the Health District Board. Should mention to our viewers out there, our council members not only serve in the City Council, but they serve on other regional jurisdictions as well. Health District in Councilwoman Brune's case, but the Regional Transportation Commission, et cetera. And so you wear many hats.
Well, my background is public health, and so I requested to sit on that board. And they do amazing work. A lot of people don't know that they also have a lot of the regulations around the food vendors, which is the other thing that's
coming up for us too. County's dealing with
So people don't realize how much they're doing, whether it be with respect to immunizations for kids, food issues, mosquitoes, vector control. So they're very busy and have a very lean staff. They're doing great work to keep our communities safe.
I agree. And that issue of the street vendors, the counties launched their ordinance. We're working on ours as well, so more to come on all of that. But we want to tell everybody out there, you have some great upcoming events.
We do. Well, so hopefully we're past the rain.
Yes, exactly.
The last few events that we've had have been rained out.
I know, it's just been so unlucky.
I can't believe it's a great cloud over Ward 6.
Your luck has got to turn. It's got to change here.
So this Friday, we're doing our first movie of the park of 2024. We're partnering with Ward 4. We'll be showing Jurassic World out at Knickerbocker Park. So it's the first time to do a movie out at Knickerbocker Park. I'm looking forward to this movie. I have never seen it myself.
Oh, you're going to like it. Yeah, you'll like it.
Some really great activities for the kids, some geode and maybe a little dinosaur dig. And then we're actually having someone from UNLV come out to talk to the kids about dinosaurs.
That's great.
So
really it's educational
Very
too.
educational, yeah.
Well, it's a great movie. And we always mention this, if you didn't know, the movies in the park that we have at the city are all free. So just come on out. Bring a blanket, a comfy chair, and Councilwoman, right around sunset is when we kick things off.
6:37. We'll have free popcorn. I think we usually have food truck vendors there. Like buy your dinner and Snap
hang
a
out,
little
watch
bit,
the movie.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah, it's a
right.
good
and
time.
yeah, you're due for some good weather.
Yes.
We've had our fair share of stuff. It's been, I think, to the whole point of the mosquitoes. It's because we've had so much wet weather last year and this year that we just normally don't get. But
or in just real swings. Like I have a desert tortoise. He came out finally last week, stayed out 2 days, and then we had a spell of cold weather and the rain, and so went back in, and he's disappeared now for the last week or so.
he said, "What was I thinking?"
Yeah.
You know, so
Oops, false start.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And then also, Councilwoman, coming up on May 9th, your next Bocaditos with Brune.
Yes, our monthly Bocaditos from 9 to 11 at our satellite office at the Centennial Hills Y. And, you know, it's just been a great time. We actually had a couple of, increasingly we're seeing people stop by, not because they have an issue or concern they want to share, but really just to see what it's about, to meet new neighbors. We have folks just come and sit down and stay the full 2 hours and just, you know, chat and share, listen to what other people are talking about. So it's been a really nice way of just sort of connecting people.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You know, having that dialogue and establishing those relationships too with not only with you but with their neighbors.
Other,
that's great. So again, Bocaditos with Brune, May 9th from 9 to 11 out at Centennial Hills Y. And you have a satellite office out there too, don't you, Councilwoman?
Yeah.
That you also have.
That's where we host the Bocaditos.
Yeah,
I'm the only council person because we're so far out.
It's out
in
there
the
way.
Northwest.
Yeah.
And we actually have our satellite office, which has been great. And we've actually allowed different community groups to use it if they, you know, need a last-minute venue for a Girl Scout meeting or a Camp Scout meeting. Our planning commissioner will actually use that office to meet with some folks too to talk about the different planning items that are on the agenda.
It's a great facility
it's been a
out
great
there.
resource.
Yeah, it's owned by the city, operated by the YMCA. It's a gorgeous place, and it's got a little something for everybody out there. But I love the fact that you make yourself so accessible to people. They don't have to come all the way down to City Hall to talk to you, so that's great too. Well, Councilwoman, we are about out of time here, but we always want to hear from you out there. So if you have something you'd like to share with Councilwoman Brune, you can call her. Her number is 702-229-6405, or you can email her. Her address is nbrune@lasvegasnevada.gov. She or one of her great staff will get back to you. You can also visit the Ward 6 website or subscribe to Councilwoman Brune's newsletter. Go to that QR code right there. You can do that, and we'll be happy to connect you. You put it out regularly, a lot of good information about what's going on in the ward. And
we do a newsletter twice a month. And actually, speaking of staff, we have a new staff member starting this week. So if you call, you'll talk to Blanca or Kevin.
Yeah, I met Kevin. Seems like a very fine young man, and he's going to be an asset to you and to Ward 6. So
we're building our team.
Yeah, maybe he'll have to be a guest on our upcoming show so we can introduce him to the public out there.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure he's like going, no, please don't make me do that. So, no, it's a good way to for the audience to meet your team. So, well, Councilwoman, we are out of time, but we'll have you,
David, for another great informative
vice versa. Great idea to invite Vivek. That was a great discussion, and hopefully everybody will have plenty of repellent on as soon as we get
repellent, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Or wear long
thick socks.
Exactly, and long pants when you're
outside. For Father's Day, a pair of thick socks. So you can
there you go. It'll come
mosquito-proof.
Exactly. You need to do that. So Councilwoman, thanks so much. We'll see you back here in 6 weeks with another update from Ward 6. And in the meantime, everybody, listen, just thanks for joining us. And remember, our next Access City Council show begins airing on May 23rd with Ward 4 City Councilwoman Frances Allen Polensky. You can catch all of our KCLV shows on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire now. And also watch for our QR code during the closing credits of this show to subscribe to the Councilwoman's newsletter. And don't forget, you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time around.